Have any of you been diagnosed at a young age with a mental health related diagnosis? And if so, what impact did it have on you as an adult?
At a young age?
Really just a younger than being an adult age.
No, I think when I was a kid, I wasn't even talking about mental health. I wasn't even exposed to it. I wasn't exposed to mental health until I became an adult in the social work program at UT, and they talked to me about mental health. But prior to that, as a kid, it was put some dirt on it to keep it pushing. That was mental health, right? Or go to church with grandma, right?
Pray away, yeah.
But mental health as a kid was not even. It wasn't even in the forefront of my brain. It wasn't even a neighborhood. I grew up in the north, so we wasn't talking about no therapy. Right, we was just talking about I was walking to Stanley's Market or whatever, so we weren't talking about therapy at all. Not even the slightest.
When did that change? For like, because I know, like, for just in general, I think in society it shifted. Like for you, do you remember when that changed? You said social work.
Probably for me, the shift. Probably I feel like therapy got talked about probably around I think right on that Trayvon Martin. Yeah. Honestly, I think around on that year. So that was like what 2018
for Trayvon Martin.
Yeah,
Trayvon Martin was 2012.
13.
Yeah.
So I feel like around that era was when it was like mental health for African American community. That image and knowing that a young child was killed by someone innocently was like now we can start talking about mental health, right? Because I feel like then it was so much more after that we started talking about. Now therapy. That didn't come to like 7 years later, probably. I felt like 2019, 2020.
COVID.
Yes.
That's what COVID brought it out for, I think, a lot of.
But mental health and like images and not seeing things that we needed to see and talking about it openly was probably around that Trayvon Martin era.
Yeah.
I would say definitely around the Trayvon Martin area. I would say, though, to me, I'm glad that we're talking about mental health. Like, I'm glad it's a topic in the forefront, but I hate that it had to be for police brutality for it to become a conversation. And like I said, for me, it was the George Floyd situation. That's just when I knew, like, I have to protect my mind and what I put into my mind. As far as being diagnosed, I was never diagnosed as a young child because, like Cecil said, that was not something that was talked about. It was like, he just been a boy, or ain't no ADHD, they just hyper, so all that stuff. It wasn't until I, honestly, like I said, started going to therapy, and that's when I was diagnosed with anxiety and also, I just forgot about it. Anxiety and it'll come to me, I'll tell you, and I forgot about it. But basically, it's where I don't adapt to change well. So growing up, my dad was in and out of jail a lot. And so because my mom was a single mother, I was bounced back and forth between my grandparents' house and bounced back and forth between home because she, was working 2 jobs and whatnot. And so therefore, I had a lot of change in my family. And so now that's something as an adult that I struggle with. If something changes for me, it takes a while for me to adjust to that. Actually, it's called adjustment disorder. There we go. Thank you. Adjustment disorder. So adjustment disorder is when you have a tough time adjusting to change. And it makes a lot of sense for the kids that we work with because our kids, they see a lot of change, in their households and in their families. So when they come to school and they see that the slightest thing changes, that's when their anxiety kicks in, their depression kicks in. So as far as adjustment disorder, that's something, like I said, I still I deal with and I struggle with. One of the things that kind of keeps me at peace with it is that I just learned that, like Blair said, we can't control nothing. You can only control the things you can't control. So I can't control when things change around me.
Blair? According to my sister, I've been messed up my whole life.
I don't think that's in the DSM, so luckily that's okay.
But
right.
She told me I was an alien and some other stuff. But as far as I was probably around the time my aunt passed back in 2012, so I was 22. That was the first time I started having some issues, as well as different things with my sister and my nephew. My nephew's autistic, so she had a lot of issues with the school districts and as far as childcare. Like some people who deal with children with special needs in Northwest Ohio know almost every school district sucks in relations to children with special needs, especially children that aren't high functioning with special needs. It's terrible around here. So that was one of the biggest things is that was an issue in addition to death for me. So that was in my early 20s because I couldn't do anything about it. How can I fix a school district? How can I, get a school board to want to take some of this tax money that they're getting at a lot of people like me with no kids who always approve every school board levy because we want the kids to be able to be okay, so those were things that were issues for me. But I was, anxiety and depression was one of the most common, but it's mainly my anxiety because the stress comes from the fact of not being able to fix the things. And learning how to cope with them. It's just one of those things where I never fully learned how to cope with them, but you're able to learn how to process them better in a way that you can work with them. Learning how to not retain everything in your head and start to get things out. I've done things from writing things up, as far as on my phone, because my handwriting sucks. And I'll write notes and I'm like, I don't know what I was feeling because I can't read it, but I've done things as what they might call a video diary where I'll just record myself and just get it out of my head,
The vlog, according to my 13-year-old.
Yeah.
She wanted to do a vlog today. I was like,
yeah, they're fancy. I just, record, voice notes, all this stuff. And there was some very toxic traits as other people know. The other me, afterward.
I don't know. Is there people sharing?
Oh, well,
Wait, we're talking about Black women mental health. We're just
it's just going out, on a Monday, and usually people go to happy hour or just have a couple drinks and some food and go home. That's to where me and one of my cousins, one of our things where it actually was kind of a form of therapy. Me and my cousin Mario, one of my closest cousins, most people know him. We would go out on Mondays and we would have a drink. Mario has 3 kids, and I ain't got kids, but I deal with everybody. So it's almost like sometimes people are my kids in their lives and in the business I'm in. So we would go out on Mondays, every Monday, up until COVID messed that up.
Yeah.
But we would go out, eat, drink, and we would talk, or we would just chill, whatever, watch a game, whatever. And that was kind of a form of our therapy because at that time it would be fuck them kids for him. So the kids was like, hey, here goes some food, or DoorDash or Uber, whatever y'all want. I don't care. Don't talk to me for the next couple hours. Me and brother out, and vice versa. Everybody would know, like, I'm at the Classic. Don't. If you really got an emergency, you can come up here. Yeah. But you got to buy me a drink to talk to me. But that was one of the things that we used. But then it also kind of was a bit of a bad move at times because some days, depending on how the day, would overindulge. And it is what it is. We would drink too much, and it's just like that's a type of way to have a release because we all know if we drink a whole bottle, the problem isn't going to go away. But at the same time, we get 3-4 hours and maybe some sleep afterwards where we don't have to think about those problems. Right. And I know a lot of people I know do that because 8 hours apiece, or not being able to clearly think is a lot. You know what I mean? Like, but then that's also one of those things where, then you realize, that you affect other aspects of your life as of how much money you spent this night. Like, a lot of people have been out with me and been like, yeah, Blair bought us all drinks. Yeah. And then the next day, like, fuck.
You're like, why is my bar bill $500?
And that's, we ain't even gonna go in the bar bill. But that's been things that affect because, like, damn, I was supposed to buy such and such with that. Now I gotta go, work. Like, for me, I gotta go bust my ass a little bit more because now I gotta make up what I got rid of. So it's just like, I don't know. It's just, everybody's got different ways. Some are more positive than others.
So I'm hearing this question, and I'm realizing that I'm the only one in this room that ever was suggested that I should be diagnosed with mental health. And I think that speaks volumes to what we're trying to talk about. Mm-hmm. I did not officially get diagnosed. I have ADHD, which, if you can't tell by my randomness sometimes, and my meds usually wear off by now. But I remember looking at my parents, and they were still, I think some of it was decades. Like, I remember telling my parents, like, I need some medicine. I had a boy cousin who was younger, so young white male. Mm-hmm. He would have meds and nobody batted an eye. I remember my teachers and me and everybody begging, like, can I get some help? And they're like, no, you're fine. You're fine. You'll be fine. But I think it's interesting that all of you, although we may or may not, I'm saying you have diagnosed, but you may or may not, but it was just never a conversation. It was never suggested. But that's why we're talking about this, because it should have been fair access to everyone, and we need that to be the case. Not saying that medication's everything, not saying that that everybody has to go to therapy for those reasons. I think talking to somebody is great, or everybody has to be medicated for mental health. But I definitely believe that we need to have that access, so people that have special needs, or high needs, or have those mental health concerns can get equal access to that.
Yeah, because if at the end of the day, if we don't know something's a problem, we can't find a solution for it. And a problem, whether it's big or small, it's still a problem. So, and it's just about finding those solutions. And it goes back to communication again, because we didn't know how to communicate that, or we communicated, oh, you good? Don't worry about that. That's that boy just special, or that girl, stop tripping. You know what I'm saying? We didn't hear them terms. She just acting up. She don't know what she's doing, and really she, crying, or he, dealing with some crazy stuff. But we just, that was how it was happened, essentially, because grandparents and parents did that, and so on. And then it's just like we were saying, more recently, people are just like, hold up, that don't make sense.
Yeah.
Why are we doing that? And then they go ask, oh, well, my dad and them did that. My grandma and them did that. And their grandma and them did that. Okay, well, it don't make sense. So y'all did it because they kept doing it, and that became the norm.
Right.
Yeah.
Whether we can probably write a list of 1,000 things between us in this room of stuff that's normal that don't make no sense. And even, stuff that's legal that shouldn't be law,
Right.
But
So like those generational curses that we're trying to.
I think the bigger thing is accessibility.
Yeah.
Right. Like in the hood, there's no mental health facilities in the north end, or the south end, or the east end. Right. It's hard to assess one.
we got treatment facilities.
Yeah, but you don't have mental health therapists on the corner. You got a corner store where every store is on the corner. So it's a lot different to have.
It's like if you going up to Michigan, you got every liquor store on the corner.
Right. There's accessibility.
Or in Toledo, it's a Dollar General.
Yeah.
And then accessibility, because back in the day, even with the changes with insurance and stuff, and people thinking, okay, if I gotta go to a therapist, it's $100 a visit, or $50 a visit, or whatever the cost may be per visit. And so that's the thing. Even though now there's more, I've seen a lot more grants. A lot of people don't even know. Like when I was at the post office in other companies, they got the EAP. Like a lot of people with jobs don't know about that.
Can I explain what that is, just in case people don't? Let's get some. So it's the Employee Assistance Program, and if your job offers it, that means that you can get a certain number of counseling visits, mental health assessments for free through. Sometimes they appoint a provider, but sometimes there's like a couple that you can choose from, and it's free, and it's through if you have that available to you. So if you have a job, you have insurance, check. And it's confidential. I think a lot of people's fear is that, like, okay, this is through my work. Are they going to go tell my work? It's completely confidential. You are speaking from a mental, that is against the law for people to tell that. But it's free access, and you can get those assessments. And I believe for some companies, for your kids too.
Yes.
Or for your family members.
Typically, who's covered under your insurance?
Covered, yeah.
That's how the post office was. Because even when initially, before when I left the post office, my mom's still a carrier. So before I got my insurance back, for me, I was able, because I'm her child. So a lot of times, and they, it's a good option. But like I said, a lot of people don't know about it. Especially when you go to work, you see the posters. Who look at the posters at work? Nobody for real. Unless you're a manager and need to know you're gonna get dinged if you don't have to update it. So there's also a lot of different grants, a lot of different free programs. I think that's the climate, especially these last few years, because they're actually starting to fund these things that should have been funded years ago, but we're here now. So
when you said and when you're looking at for the younger kids, you work in a school, and that's I work with teenagers. There's places you can go and reach out to those people, so especially now, because if people didn't know this, every school got grants because of COVID to add mental health services in the schools, and a lot of them added social workers, counselors, more school counselors, and there's a lot of mental health professionals in the school that can help you at least get those assessments and give you some of those tools and your kids some of those tools to get by. So that's out there. And I know you're not a huge fan of the things happening in Toledo area schools, but that is one thing that
No,
those are.
I've always been a fan of TPS. It's the other one.
I said Toledo. Well, I'm just gonna say Toledo area. We're not gonna
TPS.
We're not
offend
gonna
anyone in
offend
this room.
We're not gonna
Anybody in this room,
offend
sir. But
We're not going to offend
but
Dr.
those are
Brett.
out there too because
We need him on the show, so we love you, Brett.
because like you said, there are
Holland
no,
does suck.
because there are no, like you said, there are no mental health treatment facilities in the hood, but there are schools.
Yes.
And so therefore, if you need to get an assessment or need some help, that's one place to be able to go. So EAPs, Employee Assistant Program, if you have it. If you have kids, reach out to their schools, see what they can do to help if you need some of those. Okay, I got one more question, I believe. I think we covered everything else. Why do Black men struggle so much with being held accountable by their partner and their community?
Accountability is one of these things that I feel like is like this. It's now a fun word, as we call it, right? And no one really even understands what accountability is, right? We're like holding each other accountable. But if you're not holding yourself accountable first before you try to hold somebody else accountable, then you can't talk about accountability, right? And I think a lot of it we talk about making sure that as males, we're like, okay, hold females accountable. And then females are like, hold males accountable. And we're doing this whole back and forth, right? But in reality, accountability is like, if I know I made a mistake and I know I need to own up, I'm like, I made a mistake. I need to do what I need to do. I need to fix it, right? And the next person's like, okay, I understand you made a mistake. Let me help you let me help you fix it. Let's fix it together, right? And that's holding each other accountable, right? And we do this together. So I think accountability has to be like, read the question. I'm like, I think we have to be able to hold each other accountable together, right? And I think it has to be a male and a female together. It can't be like, oh, it's his fault or it's her fault.
Yeah.
It has to be we work together.
It's mutually beneficial.
Yeah. I think you can go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I paused in my head. I think as far as that, I think, taking accountability, one of the things is, sometimes when people come at you and say, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Sometimes it's the delivery, like a lot of times it's not what you say, it's how you say it. That's one of the biggest things I say to people. My background is operations and management prior to the post office and working for myself. One of the things having to deal with 30, 40 different personalities is learning how to communicate with those 30, 40 different personalities. I had, 18 and 19-year-old employees. I couldn't talk to them the same way as my 40 and 50-year-old employees who, and me, when I was 23 and they 20 years my senior, I can't talk to them the same way. You know what I'm saying? I would have to, I guess it's a form of code switching essentially. That's one of the things is in when people come at you aggressively, and say, well, you're not doing this, you're failing, you're not doing this right, and you come into a negative form of communication versus just, because there's a difference between being negative and being direct. And then there's also, it's all about how you put it out, because sometimes somebody doesn't exactly know exactly what they're doing. Because sometimes you could be having so many different actions that are causing other people to react, but you don't know that they're causing you to react because they haven't told you. But then somebody says, man, you've been doing X, Y, Z. What's your problem? Da, 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 da. Instead of saying, Blair, what's going on? Like, you kind of been doing X, Y, and Z, and it's kind of, causing some issues. And, this is happening. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. The tone and the delivery, is a different thing. So it's just like, there's so many different factors. And it's, at that time, when you speak to somebody in a certain way, it's a respectful way. Because one of the biggest things I see us fail as people is we don't give people human decency. I put human decency as at the very bottom of levels of respect. Human decency is what everybody deserves, whether you know them or not. It's just because they're a human being, you treat them a certain way. Yeah. Right. And then after that, everything, accountability, respect, everything builds up from there. But human decency is at the bottom, and you should treat them right. A lot of times we don't do that. And then so you expect certain things from somebody when you treat them like trash. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it all goes full circle. But it's just learning how to tell people what's going on versus learning how to talk to people versus talking at them. Yeah. Learning how to tell them, hey, this is causing issues versus saying you're a problem. like it's just those different perspectives on how I see it. And then also at the same time, when somebody does come at you correctly, learning how to accept that positive, that criticism, and okay, you know what? Let me check this out. Let me take this back. And like, oh, okay, I do got some issues. I could have did that a different way. I could have approached that at a different avenue. I could have handled this differently. And then now I can hold myself accountable and try to work from there. But like I said, I think a lot of it is just when it's thrown in our faces and we, to me as Black men, we're seeing that we're supposed to have everything together. We're supposed to damn near be perfect. We're not supposed to make no mistakes. We're not supposed to
eat hot dogs and lick ice cream cones.
Eat hot dogs and lick ice cream.
Bananas.
We're not supposed to be, we're not supposed to be sad about all the negative different things. We're not supposed to be fearful. We're not supposed to be scared. Like I said, we were just speaking about police the other day. Literally, it was 4 or 5 days ago. I was, C-Corps shut down. I seen police, at the bridge, so I decided to cut left and go down Bancroft. And so I took Douglas. I stayed, on the south end. So I was behind a police car. So they turned on was Douglas and Westwood, and I was going to Parkside or whatever. And then I'm just thinking, okay, they turned off. No. All of a sudden they get back behind me. You know what I'm saying? I know because I got a fishbowl. I ain't got no telling windows. You can see what's in the car. But all of a sudden they flying up me like 60 miles an hour. So I'm thinking fight or flight. I'm thinking something about to happen. So, but we're supposed to technically in society's eyes, I'm supposed to just be okay with it. I know my tags my birthday was in January. I paid that $75 for that car for the tags. My insurance is good. My registration is in my name. My license is valid. I ain't got no warrants, and my CCW is good. I ain't got no felony because I have a CCW. So all these different things, and I'm thinking like I'm still panicking.
It's just the fear of
I'm still panicking, but I have all these things that say I have nothing to worry about. And then of course I know they ran my tags and seen all that, and then they pulled off. But yet, it's the different things, like because, it's I don't know.
Accountability.
And I definitely understand, what Blair is saying in that aspect, because you can have all your ducks in a row and they'll still pull you over. We saw what happened with O'Shea Jones. We saw how that situation went. But as far as accountability, two things. Number one, when it comes to accountability, people have to get out of making the you statements, like you did this, you did that, and that automatically, as we just saw Lexi put in the comments, that automatically makes people put up their defenses because you're coming at me and saying you, instead of addressing the issue or wanting to hold me accountable. The other thing about accountability is that with people, if they have never been held accountable by people before and you come in trying to do it, they're already going to have their defenses up and wondering like, well, why are you trying to call me out on my shit? Because some people have not had those people in their lives to hold them accountable. And like Cecil said, for some reason in 2023, accountability just seems to be the word for men, when really it needs to be both man and woman. You know what I'm saying? Accountability isn't just a male thing, as we were talking about with gender roles. Accountability goes across the board, no matter who you are. Yes, it's community, but it goes back to that communication. If you're going to hold somebody accountable, come at them correctly. You don't come at them you and aggressive and all that other stuff, because that automatically is going to make people want to shut down. Me and my mom was, having a conversation before, I think it was before Christmas, and we were just talking about different things like my childhood and mental health and all of that stuff. And her defense was already up. And I kind of thought about it. I'm just like, why is she so angry right now? Yeah. Well, but it's because we have never had this conversation prior to. So now that I'm coming at her as a 34-year-old man, and I won't necessarily say hold her accountable, but we're addressing these issues. She was just automatically had her defense up because nobody is, And
it almost as if she was speaking on how you were raised, or that was like maybe an offensive thing.
And she might have been scared too, because you got to think if it's a new conversation.
Most definitely.
At any age, something new.
You never know.
Is it's, a lot of times it's equated with fear. So and then come from your child that you love, and you thinking they saying, they're upset, because it can be an upsetting thing, and sometimes that's just an emotion that needs to be released, and it's still a positive to release it. But
yes.
Do you have anything on accountability, Red?
Just hold yourself accountable.
There's the red wisdom. So I guess my last thing that I was gonna just kind of have you go around and share is just if you had one last message to give to Black men on mental health, emotions, things that we've talked about today. Any last thoughts or just people in the Black community in general, Black men, Black women, kids, what would you want them to know?
If you want to do therapy, just show up. That's the biggest thing. I feel like if you just show up and you sit down, it's gonna be scary. It's going to intimidate you. But if you ask those questions, like, how is it supposed to look, right? How is this gonna feel when you get in that room? I always ask people, like, how did you view therapy before you walked into your day, right? Like, how did you see it? How do you want therapy to happen for you? So I would say if you want to try therapy, just show up. Just show up.
So what you're saying is it's not as scary as everybody thinks.
It's not. It's not. You just gotta sit down in that room or sit on that couch or that love seat or that floor or
They don't even-
whatever it
they don't
is.
even make you lay down.
Whatever you want to sit on when
Right.
you get to that room.
Take your shoes off.
Take your
Yeah.
if you want to, take your shoes
Whatever
off.
else.
Be comfortable. Don't come with no holes in your socks. But if you got to, show up though. If you gotta come up with holes in your socks, whatever you gotta show up with, show up.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think that's the biggest thing that we're worried about is how I have to look, how I have to act in that room. Just show up in the room. If you don't gotta be your authentic self the first session, you might not get to be your authentic self to the third session.
Yeah.
But just show up in front of that person, that mental health professional, that therapist, that psychologist. If you want to do medication, that psychiatrist, whatever you want to do, just show up. Just show up.
It's definitely that fear factor of going to that therapist. As a child, I went to a therapist when I was younger, and I didn't know what to expect. You know, I was in a room with people that I didn't know. You know, so it, like, I wouldn't say traumatized me, but it put that fear on me to where I'm like, okay, I don't know who these people are. I don't want to talk to them. So I kind of shut down a little bit, even going to a therapist, even though I'm supposed to open up. So I kind of shut down, but going and talking to somebody, it helps. So I would say, go talk to somebody if you need that help. Man, just don't be fearful at all. You know, just sometimes you just gotta put your right foot first. You know,
Jump off the porch.
yeah, you gotta jump off the porch. So that's my thoughts on that.
Absolutely. Mine would be kind of what Cecil said, just do it. The first time, you know, you might be a little scared, it's intimidating because you are allowing yourself to be vulnerable. But like you said, by the third or fourth session, you're going to realize you're going to get more out of therapy once you finally be yourself.
Yeah.
You know, putting up that wall in that front is not going to help you. And also understand that strong people have bad days too. It is perfectly okay if you are a strong person and you're just like, today, I don't feel like being strong. I want to be vulnerable. I want to be weak. But most importantly, just please go get help. There's nothing wrong with going to therapy. As you saw in the testimonies today, therapy has helped all of us a lot. And so if you are someone, you know, who is thinking about making that decision, go ahead and do it. If you don't know where to start, there are some amazing people you can reach out to, whether it's Cecil, whether it's Jasmine Pope, whether it's Amy here, you know, some people who can give you some amazing resource and say, hey, I believe these are some people, you know, who can help you. So.
And if it's a crisis or anything, just you really don't. There's that we have a hotline.
Yes.
Yeah, because we do have a national audience. We got 988, and they will hook you up to, if it's a crisis situation, you get to talk to a licensed counselor that will help talk you through it, give you resources. If you call them and just say, I need some resources, they're going to help you find resources in your area. So
if you don't have a phone, go to your local hospital, walk into the emergency room, triage services, definitely know what mental health services are. So you definitely can be triaged.
So
you can call or text 988, go to any local emergency room.
Yep. And if you need somebody to talk to, you can always call us here at Mud Talk at 419-827-8255. And you can also send us a text as well, too.
Do you have any last words or thoughts about anything we've talked about? Or
be open-minded about the different things you can do. But one of the biggest things is, I know everybody is not so quick to jump into therapy, but find a way to get it out of your head is what I always tell people. Whether it be writing, whether it be voice notes or something, at minimum, try to get it out of your head if you can only start there. Also, you know, find, you know, to a way to sometimes to help calm yourself. Find something you love doing. You know, I love my job. Now it doesn't take away from the issues because there's still more work that needs to be done. But sometimes if you find a hobby it can help balance you out a little bit. But I also, finding somebody to speak with, whether it's a counselor, a therapist, psychiatrist, a pastor, somebody you feel is appropriate. And also with therapy, you can fire your therapist.
Mhm.
You can, if you got to go through 6, 7 till you find the one that fits you, do it. It's not going to be a problem. I went through a few before I found the one I was comfortable with. And just like I said, you're not stuck with them. It's not locked in for life.
Right.
And there's, you got in person, you got over the phone, you got the Skype or the Zoom, you got email, you got text, there's apps, there's so many different forms to deal with a therapist. There's so many different ways. So if you don't want to sit next to somebody, you can talk to them via online or via different ways, whatever your comfort level is until you get to that comfort, or even if you stay at that comfort level. But figuring out a way, I definitely recommend therapy. Like I said, but even if you're not ready, start a video diary, start a chat, start taking notes too. It helps you be able to analyze things a little bit differently when you can see them or you can hear them or you can visualize them. Because when it's just in your head, sometimes you can't really get a clear picture on it. But I do recommend therapy, but just don't keep it trapped in your head, because it doesn't, that ties back into what we talked about, holding stuff in. It's like if you shake this bottle up, it'll explode. If it falls off the shelf, that belt's gonna pop. So just don't keep it trapped. That's the thing. Long story short, sorry.
I think that's some good advice though.
Don't keep it trapped.
I think there's a lot of good things that you said, but I think a lot of people think when I go to therapy, this is my person, and you don't have you don't have to
fire them,
and it's confidential. Because I think a lot of times if you're in your community, if you're around people, we're worried. Like you said, I'm worried you're gonna go talk to people I know. It's confidential. And now, obviously, there's a safety concern. We want to make sure you're safe. But aside from that, everything's confidential. Nobody's telling anybody. They're not allowed. They want to keep their license. They got kids to feed, and so. Know that it's going to be confidential if you're not clicking with somebody, because they're human too. So sometimes we don't click with everybody.
And that is a big part. Yeah, they legally,
we are obligated.
Literally can lose my license, get sued. Yeah.
So many different.
Because a lot of people do have trust issues to where they're like, I don't want to go to a therapist because they gonna tell their cousins, or if they know my friend, what I'm saying, it's not.
I live in Toledo. I cannot go blast your information on Facebook, social media, at the grocery store, at the barbershop. If you catch me, I can lose my life.
And you're not even gonna go up to them and be like, "Hey, how's that thing going?" Can't do that. No.
Because that's one of the things with some of my therapists. Like, I had to tell my therapist she could speak to me in public.
Yeah.
A lot of them, they won't even speak.
Even if you told me, I'm still not.
Yeah.
But a lot of, but I had never knew that. And that's a big thing, because because say you're with your friends or your family, and they be like, well, who was that?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Exactly. So that was a big thing for me.
I remember this one time when I was bartending during COVID. My therapist actually came into the bar, and I saw her. And I was like, hey, by the way, I need to discuss. She was like, talk to you later. Like, she was she dead ass walked away from me. And she was just like, no, talk to you later. Like, have a good day. And I was just like, damn. But she already knew what I was coming up to talk to her about. And she was like,
protecting that.
Yes. Yeah. But other than that, she's like, you're not asking me what kind of drink I want or food I want. Sir, we are not having this conversation. Yeah. So thank you, Jazz, for saying about this.
I also want to just ask you, because this is one that I hear from a lot of people, is how judgmental are you of everybody's stories when people come in for therapy?
Man, I've been doing this for 13 years. Yeah. There's so many stories in my head, and I cannot judge your story to somebody else's story. Yeah. So when you sit in front of me and you say something, I'm literally like clear-minded of everything. And you just get to be yourself. Yeah. And I just get to ask you questions, and I get to experience your journey with you.
So non-judgmental.
At all, completely.
And they're not judging.
Completely.
Not that. And I feel like it's better if you actually go to not like a family member or a friend to speak to someone. Go to I actually want to consolidate with you for real, like, because I do need some therapy and everything like that. So I definitely want to reach out with you and tap in with you. And I feel like that'll be a clear-headed mind for me instead of going to somebody that I know. Even though I can go, I can go to Ty, I can go to Amy, I can go to Blair, I can go to anybody, but just having the mindset that I know that somebody actually cares, like, not saying that you guys don't
Yeah,
care.
okay, you know what, we're about to not be friends.
Put your ass back behind that
You know what,
pulpit.
let me, I want to
No,
clarify.
I love you guys.
I want to clarify though what you said, because I think there's two things you said. You need your people.
Yes.
You need
Yeah,
friends. That's not therapy.
Correct.
And
Not
I
at
think that's important
Not
to
at
know.
all.
Like you need
Not
your
at
people
all.
and you need your
most
therapist.
definitely.
Yes.
But like I said, at the same time, there's nothing wrong with finding new help.
Correct.
So
Absolutely.
it goes back to boundaries
Yep.
because certain things shouldn't cross. And I know a lot of people, one of the things that people when they even go on to therapist, back to trust issues, the one thing with family and friends is sometimes things get regurgitated.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, people are people, but sometimes
Yep.
things get spit back up, whether
Telephone game.
by accident
Yep.
or you know what I'm saying, or spit it out. And that's one thing you can avoid is having more protection to your peace and your journey by having it with somebody who's supposed to do that, because there's some things we can talk to our family and friends about, but it's things we shouldn't if we don't have to.
Exactly.
Especially when we're trying to fix it. Now, if we get past it, now we're ready to talk about what we fixed. That's one thing, but trying to go through something, you trying to fix something, you going through your drama and trauma. And
I ain't about to talk to my
Any-
mama about this.
any little thing can trip you up. It's a stick, like they used to throw sticks in the bike wheel. You know what I'm saying? It can be that and you off your bike.
Especially like if I'm going through my own stuff too, I can't take on somebody else's stuff. You know, so you may come to me and say, "Hey, Ty, can I talk to you today?" And you may really need for me to listen, but I may not be in that space. You know what I'm saying? So I may not be in that space, so it's good for you to go and have that therapist who you can go and talk to, because that's their job. Another thing I always say too is, if you can get on Facebook and tell your business for free, then you can go to a therapist and pay them. And guess what? They can't say shit about your business. Because here's the thing, because people will get on Facebook, put their business on Facebook, and they be like, "Well, why y'all commenting on my situation?" It is there for the whole world to see. But guess what? If you go to a therapist, can't nobody comment on your shit, because it's called HIPAA and they gotta be quiet. So
and I know you can give comments about your life. So
because you're not even Facebook friends with them, right? Because that would be
exactly. So yes, so much stuff.
So when you're thinking what you're saying, find your people so they know you have people to check in on you and take your stuff to the therapist.
Yeah, most definitely.
all right, well.
Do we have any questions up here? That's what I was trying to ask you.
Oh, yeah.
I want to make sure if anybody has any questions that we get those addressed.
So we had after a little issue that we had, good. So we were talking about the word accountability, and Greg said pride and the male ego is what he feels like kind of stops men from wanting to take accountability. And then Lexi said the accountability word makes people put up their defense. And then she said, y'all sound system is holding me accountable today. It wasn't your fault, Lexi. It was mine, my bad. So we got it all fixed and straightened out.
That fancy mic.
Yes.
Was there any other questions like way up in the chat from earlier, testimonials or anything? Comments, anything that we need to say?
Oh, Blair's mom says, so thankful for this dialogue. We can address what we don't acknowledge or what we deny.
Oh, I'm glad you scrolled up there. That was a good one. Thank you,
Yes.
Blair's mom.
Yes.
I can't see your name because I can't see that part. What's your mom?
Carla.
Carla, thank you.
Oh, Lexi said during Greg's story, she cried with us because it was so deep.
We all cried.
Yes, we all definitely
I
cried.
ain't gonna lie. I shed a tear.
You know something, like sidebar, that's the thing about when we can get through what we can get through. One of the things that I take with my life lessons is I go back, and anybody knows me, is I usually got a story for like a lot of stuff. Yeah. And sometimes that can help somebody else avoid some pain and drama. And not saying that you have to tell somebody your story, but sometimes if you get through something, you are able to tell somebody. You can save somebody from a lot of pain. And if you're able to do that, like I say, I'm not saying you should, but like that's big. And that's one thing about going to find the options to help heal yourself. You can save somebody.
I should say that on this, we wanted Greg to come here. He lives in Raleigh. If you guys know, he lives in Raleigh. Yes, we had that conversation on different podcasts. And and Greg, if I'm speaking wrong, please comment and tell me. But he didn't come for whatever reason, and I think he was pretty hesitant to share a story to begin with. It took a lot of me convincing and begging, and I think I finally was like, I just need somebody to share their story. And what's funny is that after we went through the story and watched it a few times, it was really therapeutic. Like for both of us, because I don't know that we've ever really, even today he said, I didn't even know what your point of view was on my story. And I was like, I didn't really know all that you'd gone through, coming up. And so it's not easy to share the story. And I even told him, I said, if you are not at that point in your healing, it's okay. You don't have to share it, because sometimes you do have to be at that place where it is, you're far enough removed where you can,
to where it's okay.
to share
It's
it.
just a story on the show.
Yes.
All right. Well, before we get up out of here, we got to shout out our sponsors. We want to say shout out to Fame Studios, Swift Products, Uniquely, Rita Armour over at Key Realty, which is Miss Amy's girl over there.
That's my girl. That's one of my best friends.
Oh, Rita?
Yeah.
All right, Rita.
You know Rita?
Yeah, Hollywood Casino. We've been down for a long time.
Wow, Rita makes some good drinks, by the way. Too.
Yeah, she does.
She sure does.
Never.
Shout out to also Makeup Medic Mobile Makeup Artist, Stormy the Social Assistant, Rambo Mama Jamba Karaoke Party Bus in Sandusky, Her Beauty Academy in SB Geek, and of course the Many Faces Podcast Studio, which is the home of the Mud Talk Podcast Show, which is also home of the Apple charted podcast show, Mud Talk. We got to put that out there, number 112. By the way, just thought I'd put that out there. Yes.
I didn't know. Did I know that?
Huh?
I know. I thought 117 was my last number I heard.
No, we're number 112. So people are out there checking us out.
Hopefully people will be out there checking this out and going to therapy.
Absolutely.
Just say it.
And well, and speaking of, our sponsors, we got to shout out Village Academy. Thank you, Lexi, for everything that you do here at Mud Talk. And, we got to go ahead and kick it to that commercial real quick, and we'll be right back. But I'm sorry.
I got you.
All right. What's good, y'all? That was Village Academy. Shout out to Village Academy. They are now enrolling at this moment. So if you have any little ones who need to be in a technology-based preschool, make sure you check out Village Academy. It's the only technology preschool base here in the city. So there we go.
What I was saying was, if you go on our Mud Talk page, we have a store with some merchandise. There's some Mud Talk merchandise. There's always also some, there's a, what does it say? Black Mental Health Matters t-shirt.
Yes.
There's also a shirt that says Black Man in Therapy, Black Queen in Therapy, so that we can just get the word out. So any purchases made from the from this show, the merch for this show, we are going to donate a portion back to mental health and Black community. So
absolutely.
Go out there. It's on our page. It's linked on our page.
Yep.
And we'll put it on our QR code that I saw with a little QR code
Yes.
now. So go on there, purchase that stuff, and we will definitely donate a portion of that back to have some more access.
Absolutely. So yeah, make sure you're going to our official Mud Talk Facebook page. You can tap in, click the link, and get all of your favorite Mud Talk merch, mental health merch, and even if you just need a Mud Talk tote bag, there's a mug on there. Yes, there's a mug on there. So
drink your coffee
at 5 a.m. with your Mud Talk.
I was gonna get it and just bring it here for the podcast, so I don't always have my brands.
We should all get Mud Talk mugs.
I ordered my Mud Talk gear. I don't know about you guys.
I'm gonna get my Mud Talk mug.
Y'all ain't gonna give us one?
Oh, you gotta order. It's on the there's a link. It's on our Mud Talk page. It's fine.
Look, Blair, we just
I'm
invited.
just saying I could trade sweatshirts. I know I got a closet full of them. I'm just saying.
Look, we
I
just
like a good
invited
one.
you back to the show. I told Blair yesterday, I was like, look, because he was talking about he was gonna bring his entourage in here. I said, look, you
I got them on.
was already black. We just took you off the blacklist, Blair. He was banned from Mud Talk.
I'm fun.
Maybe that's why I was surprised when he walked in. I was like, did you just ban him?
He was banned from Mud Talk because he hopped in my camera
I'm
shot.
fun though. I'm fun.
You know what? I'm glad you came because I appreciate you
Yes,
sharing.
we appreciate you. All right. Well, on the next episode of Mud Talk, we're gonna have our Mud Artist of the Week, which is one of my former students actually.
Nice.
I know his name is Trevicio. He is an upcoming hip hop artist here in Toledo, young hip hop artist. I actually taught him in 8th grade, and he is 20 years old now. I know, man. Listen, these gray hairs don't tell you that. That should tell you right there.
You know that my oldest is 36 right now.
Really?
Yeah, we're not talking about that.
Oh wow. All right. Well, he's going to be on the show.
I'm 36.
He's going to be on the show in 2 weeks on our next episode. I'm going to be back with my tips for tea. And I'm going to give you 5 things on what you should or should not do with your taxes. Because,
man.
I'm going to behave, though. Not enough that we need security. I don't care what you do with your money, but let's be smart this time, okay? Let's be smart about it, okay? Tip number 1.
Hey,
tip number one.
Hey, you want to talk about money? They'll
Yes.
Tip number one: file them legitimately.
That too. Do what you do.
And also remember to
Hey.
file them because you just
Right.
That's tip number
Right.
two.
Good.
Please file your taxes. So yes.
And don't trust everybody that's folding their arms on Facebook.
Yeah. Some of them, some of
See,
them
now
arms,
we're gonna need security now.
some of them arms is edited.
And I think somebody's got a birthday like around the time of our next
Yeah.
show.
That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
So if you see that tax flyer and they got Kim Kardashian on the flyer, please know Kim Kardashian not on your
Don't work
taxes.
Kim Kardashian
Don't work
flyers
Kim
on
Kardashian
anything.
on there, okay? So I'm gonna be doing my tips with tea, and you'll be back maybe with some more.
Is that
Ask
our
White
first?
questions.
I think that's why girls. I think that's the
Oh no, so
mental
you'll be
health.
doing your mental
Yeah.
health stuff. Yes,
But
mental
maybe
health
we'll see
again.
what else we'll come up with something.
We'll come up with something.
Since we did a whole mental health show, I know.
Yeah, maybe we'll do fuck your feelings Friday. That would be really
Some
good to
feelings
do.
need to be
Yeah,
talked for sure.
fuck your feelings. We haven't done fuck your feelings Friday in a long time.
I told you I have notes in my phone. Speaking of notes in our phone, I got a whole bunch of those for that.
Oh, fuck your feelings.
I told you I was keeping notes in my phone.
Oh shit, you got a whole month worth.
Yeah.
You ready, huh?
I mean, I might not be as upset about it because I did put it in my phone and I
Yeah.
kind of like let it go. But
Yeah, I've been holding in mind for the last 2 weeks because you know what I'm talking about. So I'm ready. So maybe we can do fuck your feelings in the next show because you know that's all I gotta say. So yeah, I'm Big T,
I'm Red.
I'm Miss Amy.
and Mud Talk is the only show that brings you the latest in music, news, and fashion, and the only show that keeps our ears to the streets.
While we grind in the
Before
419.
we go, can we thank our guests?
Absolutely, we gotta thank
Yep.
Cecil. We
Thank
gotta thank Blair. Appreciate you guys for being open and honest about our conversation today.
Thank you to
about Black
Red and
History
Big
Month.
T for sharing.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Greg, for sharing your
Thank you,
testimony.
Greg. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Lexi,
Miss Amy.
for helping us out in
Thank
the
you,
comments.
Lexi.
We appreciate everything that you
Yes.
guys do. And like I said, we'll be back in 2 weeks. I'm super excited. And yeah, that's it, y'all. So make sure y'all go ahead and follow us on all socials. We are on Facebook, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube. Everything is up under Mud Talk. So make sure y'all go and tap into that. And remember, Mud Talk, you know, we're the Apple charted podcast. So number 112 in the charts.
So go get your merch.
Yes,
Help
go
us
get your
raise
merch.
money. And you
Yes.
can walk around with Mud Talk on some of that merch saying, like, I know them.
Yes, you know them.
And help some mental health stuff.
Some people have been walking up. Who was that said they were like they knew you from a podcast? Somebody said.
It's happened a few times.
Oh yeah. Well, and then we got the guy who wanted to take a picture with you.
And also, people start to, I feel like more of it, like, people start to look at me weird. Like, some guy was like, I know you. And I was like, I don't think you do. But maybe that's why. Like, you're starting to be like, they've seen it here and there.
Yeah, we want to, well, the guy that walked up to you at the R&B Fest. Yeah.
Which,
so,
oh, the picture there.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was me.
no.
You did too. But you didn't ask me for a picture. Like, it was a legit, like, ooh, can I get a picture with you? And then it just got weird. I don't know.
Yeah, he wanted to take a picture with her.
But if you're
and it was all
listening,
kind
thank
of
you. I'm
stuff.
glad you listened.
We appreciate it. And we made a joke on here about it because so we can see like what time people listen to our show.
Uh-huh.
And like our heavy viewers was like at that time during
The
the summer
shows that I was on.
that she were on, they were watching like 3 a.m. in the morning. And we
Yeah.
were
like
just like,
overseas and everything.
we were like,
Yeah.
it's probably that dude. That went to
or I'm just gonna get my whole life hacked and
Well, he
Yeah.
just wanted to listen to your sexy
You know what?
voice.
I didn't even give him my sexy voice.
Just post your cash app. That's what they do. Just see what hit. If it's you, cash at me.
You know what? What I want, trust me, I will get my cash and whatever. But what I really want is I want them to go buy T-shirts so we can raise money for.
Yes.
So if that's you listening at 2:00 in the morning or 3, and you want to
Whatever
support me,
floats
I need you to buy 4 shirts and send $5 to the cash app.
there it is.
Please.
Got it.
Bingo.
All right, we appreciate y'all. We'll see y'all in 2 weeks. Have a good night. And remember, it is okay to not be okay. Go ahead and get you some help if you need it. And remember, Mud Talk is always here for you guys. You can go ahead. You can use the number that we have that we just talked about earlier, 419-827-8.